Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
It doesn't hurt at all because I'm bulletproof. It bounces right off me. And then I say something funny to keep moving on with the show, to keep the show moving. You know, you got that's the difference between a guy who's a headliner and a guy who's not a headliner.
Welcome to the Comedians in Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Rick Allen. Rick, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Rick Allen, and I'm having trouble with my computer here. There we go.
Oh, we're there. You got it.
All right. So I'm Rick Allen. I'm a nationally touring comedian and writer. And I don't know what else you want to need to know here. You want
That's
my
it.
file?
Just, so everyone has a little idea about what we're doing. So
Sure.
You ready to get started, Rick?
I am readier than ready. Let's go.
Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comments section. You say things like, I didn't know I didn't subscribe. And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build. And we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me. All right. So the whole point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So Rick, would you agree that you start as a comic and devolve into a comedian?
I'd say that's fair. I'd say that's fair. Yeah, I'd say. Yeah.
All right. All right. Ready for the first question?
Let's do it.
All right. So it's about the role of persona in comedy. So how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
Well, you know what? There's different comedians that some are more characters than others. I'm a bit of a character up there. But my natural personality is like I'm a ball breaker. You know what I mean? Like that's what I do. And when I became a headliner comedian, because there's different levels, and I'm still, no matter what level you're at, you're always trying to get to the next level and you're always trying to make yourself better. So, but when I became a headliner, a guy that could, keep the laughs going for an hour and really, I learned that I got to put my personality up there. I got to bring my personality when I go up there, which I guess you would call a comedian. So when I put that together with my good writing and, and my, of course, my writing improved, I guess this is my best answer here. Then,
Yeah.
Then it all meshed and the comedian met the comic and here we are.
Yeah. So then does authenticity matter or is illusion part of the magic?
Okay. Yeah. So the way comedy is now, yeah, authenticity matters. It's your comedy act. So you're really, you have an act. So you're kind of acting. A comedian is kind of an actor of who acts, whose lines have to sound like he's just saying stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking to you now. So authenticity matters a lot. Yeah, because it's got to be believable. When you like, I'm talking to you right now, and it's got to be believable.
Right. Okay. So punching up versus punching down. So where do comics versus comedians subscribe to this? And let me put it in some historical context. Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
Did a jealous, say that again?
Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
I don't know. I mean, what are you trying to extract from me here? This is crazy.
Well, it is a little crazy. I mean, I haven't seen any gladiatorial battles in ancient Rome, but
I
I can
see what you said.
imagine.
You know what? I absorbed it now. It clicked in. So you know, you don't really supposed to punch down, okay, in comedy. But I got news for you. Like I'm like a guy that punches down a little bit. I know where the line is, and I go right up to the line. And I like to break chops with the audience. And
Mhm.
of course, older crowds, you can break more chops. With younger crowd, you can't make fun of a guy's hat anymore. You can't do that. Like if the guy's 20, 25, they're not going to take well to that. And I'm a little bit like Don Rickles, and I like to break chops, but I know when to pull it back. If I got a younger crowd, I stay with the material. And if I mess with the crowd, it's in a very gentle and kind of a fun kind of way, and then I go right back to the jokes. So,
So you do less crowd work with younger crowds?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I would say for sure, yeah. But if my crowd's 40s and up, I'm good. I mean, even yeah, probably late 30s and up.
Hmm.
You can mess with the crowd a bit there.
Do you think it's a generational thing, or is that the case for just any younger group? Like in 20 years from now, will it be that generation, even when they're in their 40s and 50s, won't be able to take it, or it's
Well,
always going to be?
I hope that this generation, is lightens up a bit, but it's just look, it is the way it is. I'm the old guy now, so I don't know how old you are, but I'm the old guy now. So, but I don't, I try not to interject that, but I got to be myself up there. You know what I mean? I got to be
Right.
myself. So I believe that, that you got to know your audience for sure.
Speaking of, so how cultural translation of comedy. So how do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
Oh well, I performed in London, and I have some jokes about my Spanish wife who you met while we were replugging this whole thing, and the Spanish wife stuff is some of my best stuff. So I only had they only gave me a guest spot when I was there, and I did a guest set, and so I messed with the crowd because I did my homework, and I know they like the New York shtick. They like the New Yorker, so I brought a lot of that, and I was breaking chops. But then I went to the Spanish wife stuff, and I could see it wasn't hitting as well. And then I realized, I talked to somebody after. I realized there's not a lot of Spanish people in England, in London,
Hmm.
and so it's knowing your audience, but you have to do your homework if you travel abroad. You have to do your homework. Yeah, you have to know what you can and what they like, what they don't like. That helps. It's like a guide.
Yeah. So then how does the silence when your joke doesn't land hurt? Physically, emotionally,
Beady, beady,
morally,
beady,
or
beady.
spiritually?
It doesn't hurt at all because I'm bulletproof. It bounces right off me, and then I say something funny to keep moving on with the show, to keep the show moving. You got that's the difference between a guy who's a headliner and a guy who's not a headliner.
So
If
were
if
you
you're
always bulletproof or did this evolve?
No, definitely was not always bulletproof. I was not always bulletproof. And sometimes you just address the joke that didn't work. Sometimes, I was doing a set in El Paso, Texas, and I was doing really well. And then I threw in this new joke. I don't know why I did it. And it got nothing. And I just stood there. There had to be 250, 300 people in the audience. And so I stood there. I looked at the audience and I go, cross that one off for tomorrow, like that. Everybody laughed, and I moved on to the next show. So,
No,
yeah,
absolutely. And I that's a great way to, obviously the way to do it. But I hear a lot of comedians now just doing that all the time. Like it's like now become a thing. It's
oh
part of
well,
their
you
act.
you have to have material. If you I've been on the road a really long time. Okay,
Yeah.
so I got jokes that work at a 93% clip here. You know what I mean? Like there's
Right.
there's parts of the country where I don't hit as hard, like the deep South. They don't really like the New York type of guy. So
Okay.
I performed in North Carolina recently, and I did okay. I did well. They liked me, and I had enough good stuff that they like. But there was some stuff that they just didn't like, you know, and because I know that's not my best market is the deep South. Other than that, I go pretty much pretty good anywhere I go throughout the country. So that's where being on the road and the experience is really important, because if you're writing and you pay attention and you watch your videos and you see what's working and what's not working, you know, then you're gonna, because you're always tinkering with your act to make it better. So you got to have really good jokes that work, you know. So if you're constantly going, well, cross that one off for tomorrow, maybe you should, you know,
Cross yourself off, right?
you should
So
not cross yourself off. I think everybody's got to try, but you know.
yeah, of course. So then are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
Are comics more universal where comedians are more what?
Culturally specific. I think this hits right at the
Can you
what you
give me
just
that?
said.
Can you give me that in plainer terms?
I think I think it's striking to exactly what you already just said, is that, you know, you're saying that you are a comedian as a character and you have a style with the New York accent and it doesn't always play everywhere. So then what can you do to play everywhere? Or how can you be more universal? And would that just be having generic
I
jokes?
don't have a style with the New York. I just am who I am, and that's what I sound like when I'm up there. I'm not trying to
Well,
be, yeah, New
I
York.
mean, isn't that the same thing? It's the authenticity that's coming out, right?
Right, the authenticity is coming out, right, like it is now. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Good.
But
So
so then if you're in a situation where, you know, you're just not in an environment where you know that's going to land, you got to come up with totally new jokes, and I would argue that's the comic. You're going to come
no,
up with
what
something.
I'll tell you what I do. I'll tell you what I
Okay.
do. If I see the jokes are not hitting, I start working the crowd, you know,
Okay.
and I'm in front of over 40 audiences all the time. I'm not in front of generally you get that in the cities, and I'm not as big a city comic, although that's changing. But uh, so I'll pivot to the crowd work, and I'll even say, like, these jokes aren't working, folks. So how you doing? And I'll go to this guy and I'll say, you guys married, you together? And I have a notebook for crowd work, which is all about the questions. Crowd work's about the
Okay.
questions. You got to know how to pound them with questions here. I should
Okay.
charge.
So
I should charge for it. I should give a course, right? All right.
absolutely, yeah. And just to touch on that, to make it just as twice as hard, we'll say that it's a younger crowd, not in the area that you usually work. So now, how are you going to do the crowd work with those people that don't necessarily
Okay,
do
well,
crowd work?
I got jokes. I've been working to get it. Like I said, I haven't been in the city, but that's starting to change. So
Right.
I know the jokes that work in the city. I have jokes that they like more, and I do some crowd work, but it's more. I look at the audience and I try to see where where I have more leeway. You know, like this guy. You got to read body language, and it's best guess. But yeah, sometimes listen. Sometimes you're in a no-win situation. They don't like you. You don't like it. I've done all black crowds where they just were against me a little bit. You know what I mean? And it's nothing. They didn't like me. I didn't like them. It's nothing racist or anything like that. Or maybe it is. I don't really know, and I don't really care. But sometimes you get in comedy. You're going to get in all situations, and hopefully you learn from it. You know what I mean? Like, so sometimes you just gotta go, you know what? I don't think I should perform in this. This is not my crowd, and this is not
Right.
my sweet spot here. And I don't think I should be doing these shows until I get better at them, or forget it. You know, look at
Yeah.
Sebastian Maniscalco. He does the Italian shtick, and it's great for him. You know what I mean? If he worked, an urban room, he might not be probably not going to fly. You know what I mean? But that guy, he's big.
Right.
And
So then does that change that now it becomes a whole new level because people are just going to see a name and they almost don't care who it is. They just know that it's been someone on Netflix.
right. Well,
Sometimes
that's
sometimes that's
that's
the room.
you need to have a podcast audience members in elevators then for that one.
Yeah, I'll go with that on that one. All right, love and justice. So, Is the highest function of comedy to expose injustice or to make people feel less alone while living with it?
I think it's both. I think comedy's about a connection with the audience and being, relatable material, and so that's really it. I mean that's it. So I think both of those things are good. So
All
that's
right.
all I'll say about that. Yeah.
So when a joke harms someone unintentionally, does love demand accountability or does justice demand defiance?
Okay. I didn't completely absorb that. Are you talking about how I should react when somebody's
Well,
defiant with me?
it's potentially. I mean, they could be defiant with you. I mean, if you're taking a perspective, a position, and so they may be opposite to that. So no, basically the idea of love and justice. A lot of people don't see them as opposites. I say they're on a spectrum, right? That's why I'm comparing the two. So I would argue love does demand accountability, and justice does demand defiance. But if you harm someone with a joke unintentionally, how does that
Okay.
change the dynamic? Because you didn't do it on purpose.
It doesn't. It doesn't because you know what? There's 200 people in my audience, and if somebody that didn't take it well, happens all the time. And
Right.
you know what? Put your big boy pants on and get over it. And because
Exactly.
I'm not concerned like a lot of comedians. Oh, I'm so concerned with that guy that didn't like my joke. For a long time, you know what I mean. But I'm
Right.
like, I don't care. Like this guy didn't like me. Well, tough on him. Everybody else is laughing. Like too bad. I didn't mean to. Like you said, it was unintended. And
Mhm.
so
I
if they
mean,
come
they
up
can.
sometimes they'll come up to me after the show and they'll say, I really didn't like I thought you were great. I didn't like the dirty thing that you did there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I just smile and I go, okay, yeah, all right,
Yeah.
I don't,
Dick jokes are an acquired taste. So, very important question: advertising and self promotion. So, who advertises themselves more, the comic, the comedian, or the magician? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast and get the message out today. See you soon.
who's the magician now? You threw me a curveball on that one.
Well, you
The,
got to
co-
see him
the
around,
comic
right?
and the comedian, definitely the comic, I would say.
Okay, they advertise themselves more. How so?
Well, the comedian is the guy with the personality up there. The comic is who now again?
I'd say he's the guy that just tells jokes. Usually an
Yeah, so
external.
that guy's going to be more business minded. The other guy's just up there and he's on autopilot, and he's doing his thing. You know what I mean?
So
Uh,
you're not business minded.
I improved a lot in that area. For a long time I didn't understand the business side, and boy, did I make a lot of mistakes. We could do an hour on every mistake I made in the comedy, but and a lot of them I can't fix. That you're done, and it's a
Yeah.
it's a it's a people business, and so, but
Did that change the way you did your comedy on stage?
no, it had nothing to do with my on stage. It was my off stage. It was my off
Okay.
stage. It was my deal. The business side is you're dealing with people. How you word an email. How many times you contact the guy. Um, that kind of
Okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So censorship and offense. So does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point, like a magician?
Does a comic avoid offending someone
Yes.
while the comedian
Courts it.
embraces it?
Yeah, embraces it to prove a point, like a magician.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd say that's fair. I'd say that's fair.
So
Yeah.
then who survives better in the cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician, or the mudslinger?
It just depends how good you are, and and knowing your audience. It just depends. It really depends. You can't make a blanket statement about that. Everybody, you know. I mean, there may be an answer that if there was a really answer and we polled everyone in the world, would say comedian
Statistically, yeah.
39.4. There would be some kind of answer. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't think it's yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so comedy is commentary. So when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
Oh, well, I think some of the best comedians are philosophers, and slash preacher. I mean, George Carlin, I mean, this guy was one of the best. I mean, and that guy, you know, he had something to say about everything, and he really woven the whole thing into, a big package and really got his point across, as kind of a funny philosopher, commentator guy, so, and he's one of my favorites. So that's the first
So
thing I thought of.
so is that good or does it dilute the humor?
Uh, okay, so I think it's good. Um, I think as long as it's all in how you do it, it's all in the way that you do it. So if it's done in the right way, um, so yeah, you just have to pay attention, what's working. And as long as that's who you are, if you feel like, if all your bits sound that way and you come across that way and you found your way to get your point across that way and you're really funny, there's a lot of guys like that. There's a lot of guys like that are that way. Yeah, and they have a lot of success, and especially in the city and on the road, and yeah, some of those
All
guys are
right.
great. Yeah, I'm impressed with a lot of those guys.
All right, so laughter versus applause. So are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing applause breaks or a primetime Emmy that validate the message?
What's the choice again? The
Laughs or applause?
laughs or applause? Uh, well, a lot of times you get applause. Uh, I did a set in the city, and my last joke got an applause break, and I like it better when I get a lot of laughs and then they applause.
Right.
That's those are good. The only thing better than that is a standing ovation. I was told like the best thing you could get in comedy is a standing ovation. You know what I mean? But second place is laugh and applause break. A big laugh, and applause break. For me, what if you pin me down and tell me which one do I want better? Uh, I love the really long laugh that I gotta wait for it to stop, like a 20-second laugh. I've gotten those, and I have
Right.
them on video, and those are
They're
great.
interfering with your timing because you don't want to stop it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And if you got a big ego, it's probably applause. You know what I mean? It's like, but you know, when I decided, I don't want to tell you too much about myself, but when I decided, like, really made up my mind that I was going to do this and I was going to be successful at this, and nobody was stopping me, and I meant business and I meant what I said, like, I started working on myself and deflating my ego, and just and it made me a better comedian, and it made me see things a lot differently. It really, really did. I got into a lot of this stuff. If you in my Instagram feed, it's all like self-help, positive stuff. You know what I mean? Because I spent a lifetime being a knucklehead. You know, but so I'm getting away from the topic here. But the whole thing is the ego. It's the ego. You know what I mean? Like the ego guy, the guy who's with the big ego has to get the big applause. Oh, look at I got an applause. I got two applause breaks. You only got one. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. Listen, but I don't live in that. I do my level best not to live in that universe. I really, really don't. And I'm very happy. I wake up every day grateful. And anyway, so that's a
Awesome.
little about me.
So Rick, are you ready to enter the multiverse?
The multiverse. Let's
Yes.
All right, let's roll with that, baby.
All right. Board game Zoomcast, play versus performance. So you're going to choose an avatar. So if comedy were a board game Zoomcast, are you competing as the colorist, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
Oh, the punchline soundscape guy. Yeah, that's me.
Okay. So then does comedy work better when it's painted vividly or when it's orchestrated sonically?
See, you are very right, left brain, and I am very right brain. So I'm not absorbing
Perfect.
these kind of questions. These kind of questions, they go right over my head because I just, I just don't think that way, and I have trouble absorbing it because you're speaking a different language from me. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest with you,
Good.
it's not my. I have a good vocabulary. Sometimes I'll I'll
Well,
throw I'll throw a good word in there every here and there.
yeah. So, well, are you more visual or audio?
Oh, with in comedy,
Yeah.
are people partaking me more as visual? Oh, I think I'm more. I think I'm both, but I think I lean more to the not visual. I think because
Okay.
I have the voice. I use
Right.
my voice a lot and voice inflection and timing and yeah, just yeah. But
So then,
I do a lot of act outs, and that's
right.
visual. So I'm really both.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when you say act out, you're doing it as a different character or you're in a different place?
No, like I have a joke about baseball. I say it's a. I don't know if I'm going to tell you. It's one of my better jokes.
Well, if it's
And
baseball, you're in baseball. You're on the field, right?
right, so I say baseball's like a hooking up sport. Like these guys are trying to date each other, and then I'm not going to tell you the joke, but I'll tell you the
Yeah.
punchline is like I'm like a pitcher, and then I turn to the side and I go
Okay.
like that, and the
Uh-huh.
whole room goes that that gets a incredibly. I'm not going to tell you the joke, but
That's
so I have a
I
lot of
think I'm getting that's good. That's visual. That's visual. That's not
right. So
audio.
I'm saying I
Yeah.
have a lot of that in my act, but
Yeah.
it's also
Cool.
the cadence and my voice and
Sure.
the way I sound you know and
Yeah, I mean, you're literally not saying it. You're giving a look. I mean, you're painting the picture at that point, right?
right.
So that's
I
good.
mean, it's just yeah. The punchline is a head nod, like I'm a pitcher going like that. Yeah.
I got you on that one. It's good. It's funny. I pretty much can picture that joke. All right. So here on the Comedians and Elevators podcast, we have a tradition where the
All right.
previous guest asks a question for the next guest.
Okay.
And the previous guest was Elizabeth Dunbar. And her question for you, Rick, is who has influenced your comedy in your life and how?
Uh, me. I had a really tough life. I had a major like drug problem for a long time, and I had a lot of trouble throughout my life in different problems and things like that. And so when I finally overcame all that, and I it it made me a better comedian because I started really paying attention to to everything, and I put my all, I put my best foot forward, and so you know it's really me and my failings and my life, that influenced me the most. I wish I could say it was my father or something, you know what I mean? But that's not really what it is, like
That's what a
you
real
know,
comedian is. It's your own tragedy that made you funny, right?
yeah, I do a lot of Narcotics Anonymous conventions. I do those. Are you out in California? Where are you?
I am. LA.
What part?
Not
Where are you?
Louisiana. In the valley?
Okay. So yeah, I'm supposed to get some stuff at San Diego and Palm Springs, NA
Okay, so
convention.
you need a mule or something?
Do I
You
need
need
a
someone to
mule?
no, whatever. All right, last question. Legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics Type 5 survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
The point of view, the Tide Five. the tight 5 is like, that's when you're starting out, really, and that, I have stuff on video from a long time ago, but the point of view for sure. Yeah. I don't want to give you the
Awesome.
long-winded answer. I gave you too many of those, didn't I?
No,
Did I give you too many of those?
not at all. Not at all, Rick. So where can everybody find you online?
Okay. So I have a website. It's rickallencomedy.com. My Instagram is RAFunnyGuy20. And the best place to find me besides those two, really, I'm growing and I'm becoming, like maybe 530 subscribers or something like that on YouTube. And my handle is just type Rick Allen Comedian in the search box on YouTube. And
Okay.
I have 200 and something videos. I have a lot of stuff that I don't put on unlisted or private. I have a lot of public, and it's not just stand up. I put a lot of stuff on there, like street comedy and at the gym. Anyway, that's the three best places to find me. And do you want me to come up with a question for the next person?
I'm gonna ask, unless you got it, I'll do it afterward.
We could do it afterward. Yeah, I got to think about that.
All right, Rick. Well, thank you so much for being my guest. And for everyone, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one. If you're interested in too much information like in the network state or Mantipus the chicken shit, check out this video. Or is it this one right here? Well, either way. Lizard.